and we keep doing the things. And I use the speed lines probably too much. That's another thing I changed. In some cases, I feel like I use speed lines too much, and all the speed lines, at least most of them used here, were digitally applied. And sometimes applying speed lines digitally, if not done properly, can look really cheap, you know. But long story short, kind of going through, I like how I use the speed lines here and some of the strokes. I think they're pretty cool. Again, this is a no-no. See how I put the text? Not so good. Then we do some I did some creative things here with, like, it's almost like a flashback, but I do this differently. I probably would have some kind of blackening behind this panel, just to emphasize a little more that this is a flashback. But if you're reading the comic, I think it is apparent that it is. So I'm not too worried about that. It's not really a big deal. Again, the comic goes on. Got some pretty decent drawings. Some of the action to action kind of paneling here I would change. Another thing I change is I wouldn't panel this way, where you have the lines going upwards. Yeah, that's just not how I do things. I don't panel triangles. My panels they always have 4 sides, and even though these have 4 sides, the bottom of I always kind of like to have the bottoms straight, right? Because rare you see me do, like, I would never do this again, right? But again, it's not a bad thing. Most of the things, like I said, are just preference. Some of the angles here were pretty cool. You have the slice and blood going all over the place. Some of it, like I said, it's not the most anatomically correct, but some of it still looks cool from a stylistic standpoint. I think some of the action to action, like I said, could be a little confusing. So that's something I would actually I would approach differently. Like this fight scene, it utilized a certain amount of pages, and I was trying to keep in line with the script. And as a result, things didn't come out as well as I hoped. But just moving on, I thought it was pretty decent anyways. One thing again that would have helped if I storyboarded was I would have been able to properly build tension from the first panel to the last panel within 2 pages placed like this, so that when you flip the page, something major or some kind of information is revealed when applicable. It's not every time you do that kind of stuff, but I don't recall ever doing it as much within this comic. Like something like this, where it's a one panel that takes over the whole page. Rather than having it here, I would have built up to it and then have this page or had this panel on this side. It's much more, But then again, it's not that bad, because when you flip, we go to another scene, which in itself, has some importance. So therefore, saving it for a following page is also not a bad thing. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. But yeah, looking down here, again, not that many panels going on, so it's easy to read. Your eyes are resting. Everything is pretty good, which I guess is good, because in the scene itself, everyone's kind of chilling and resting. And some of the angles here were challenging. I like how it is here. I would say, just tilt the artwork just a little bit, and just to make that a little better. And yeah, so far so good with this. And I think I try to do some background stuff, which is which is more than I had done up onto this point, so that was good. And it was almost like I was noticing that, and with each page I was trying to be better. And that's why you see the pages, the backgrounds here are really detailed. But as we go on in the comic, I keep making the same errors that I've been talking about. But if I'm going to talk good about the comic, I think some of the artwork in some places was really good. You got this blind character here, who's a mysterious, weird type of character, which is unique, at least compared to every other character within the series so far. Some of the things I changed here, again, it's too much too much nothingness going on here. Some sound effects to show that the character is moving in this direction, and maybe a sound or the sound of the swords, just something. And Again, the way the text is placed, that should be better. Backgrounds here, you know, it's like, because it's okay, it should be fine. There's some interaction with the table here, so that's drawn. It's not every time you draw backgrounds, at least in my style. I don't tend to draw backgrounds every time. As long as the viewer knows where all the actions or the scene is taking place, that's usually good for me. Sometimes I still draw backgrounds just cause, but there's some cases where I leave it completely white, especially if the panel is like really small. So, you know, it's pretty much here. The movement of his hand with the sword, I would have some sound effects to show that, you know, again, like a sound, maybe like a shing or something, I don't know, I'll figure it out. And here I have the backgrounds drawn without a ruler, and you know, sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it's fine to draw a background without a ruler. It depends on the style, it depends on whatever you've been doing so far. You just want to be, it'll be good to be consistent with whatever comic you're doing, and just stay with that style or aesthetic. I'll have more tones. Some things will be in flat black. But yeah, it's not bad. Some of the backgrounds here are actually pretty good. Here will be different. Just the pose and some of the drawings, the way I've drawn some of the clothing lines, like the creases and wrinkles, probably be much better than it currently is, based off of what I'm looking at right now. Some of the shading looks a little too rough, but you know, it's not that bad. Again, some of the anatomy stuff that I see here isn't the greatest, but still okay. Here, I like some of the movement of the character dodging the swing. Again, no backgrounds here, but I actually like how there aren't any backgrounds here. It makes you focus on the actual swing, so not too much to change here except for the obvious. You got one over here. I like the toning here. Then it makes you focus on the sword. La 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 la. I like the hand here, so it's pretty okay. Again, except for the obvious. Here, the thing I'll change here is, again, just too much white space. Like, what would change is that maybe I would actually have him be much bigger than he's drawn here, and the hand can pop out in this panel, and that'd be much better. I like how he's cropped here, shows a little mystery. And even though this guy's cropped, the expression of his face shows a little confinement or fear, and it shows like it's almost like he feels like he's boxed into a corner. So the panel shape and how narrow it is kind of also conveys the emotion or current states of this character. I like the swing here, some gore, the movement. I like some of the movement here. I don't know, maybe I'd have had some like focus lines at the edges, maybe. This is terrible, again, obvious reasons I've been talking about. And yeah, you know, so far so good for the most part. I like some of the angles I chose, but one of the same issues is that you have him being stabbed in the neck here, but when you come here, he's facing the other side. I would have probably had the character face here just to keep things consistent, going back to that 180 rule. Here, I'm not a fan of how I toned in the trees or how I drew trees here, and that's why it's much different than how I do it in Apple Black. So one of the goals with this comic was also to experiment and draw things that I hadn't drawn before in this style, to know how I would do it in the future if I didn't like what I came up with. So that's what happened here. But this panel's pretty good. We have an establishing shot showing him in this like forest kind of place, and we're zooming in slowly. We have one shot, no text, no nothing, and we're just like getting closer to the character, and then we get closer to his face. I kind of like that. So sneaking up on him, I'd probably had more tone just to keep him a little more mysterious, but I guess the mask kind of does that to some degree. And I do that thing again where the hair is black and we just blacken the edge and just put a bubble there, text bubble there. I like the angle here. I really like the sword and the angle that I've chosen to draw the sword from. I really like it. Everything else is pretty okay. The way things are toned. Again, I'm not a fan of how I toned the trees, but yeah, it's pretty okay. And then we just go on from there, and I keep making the same mistakes that I made before, and some things I like how I did, like how this character pops out. I think that's really nice. Not much I'll change in this panel, except maybe push this text bubble closer here, because this place is all empty. Could have used the text. See the attack here, the dodge, the eye shot here. I think is pretty dope. You know, these are where these are the parts where the comic starts to get better, at least in my eyes. And you see places like here where I actually push it to the edge. The only reason that it doesn't continue here, that has to do with the printer, because if you notice, I actually drew this to the edge, but the printer kept this space. Again, you know, novice, most of these were to trial and error, and I know how to bypass all these issues. And the movement of the action I liked. These are the parts that I really liked with the comic, the dodging and the sword fight and little clash here. It was pretty good. And then you got a little action here, but again, you see the character here, you see the character here. Yes, he turns his back, so this is fine, but you have him. I guess it's okay. It's okay, because I was gonna bring the 180 rule thing back in this case, but yeah, it's fine, because he's kind of like faced in this direction, still looking at him over here. So I don't know. Just forget I said anything. This is fine. Have a little more drawings here. Drew some backgrounds. Yeah, this page is pretty good. It's pretty good. I would have that line to make sure it doesn't go into the gutter, but it's whatever. Got some more backgrounds and establishing shot here. This is pretty good. I like how I drew this as well. You can see like the roof. That roof looks, you know, okay. And introducing a character, so I made sure I drew her fully. So you know, this is the first time we're seeing the character, and she kind of comes out of nowhere in a way. So you know, give her a little, let the viewers see her at least. Sometimes from a torso and up is fine. Sometimes a good portrait is fine, but this is fine from like the knees. You know, it's all good basically. And the character is like going to an inn, and that's where he meets meets this character. And you know, some of the drawings here is pretty okay too, and some of like the almost like B-roll, showing that maybe the character is a wanted guy before we leave that scene, and then jump to where he's kind of sleeping and she comes to sneak on him. And you know, some of the drawings here and the toning here I actually like a lot. And snooping around, this is pretty good. Apart from the obvious mistakes that I've been talking about, so far so good. I like this shot. So there's not too much I would change so far, except you know, maybe in some places the artwork could be better and have more consistency in how she looked. I mean, I think it's relatively pretty consistent. I just think the drawing itself just looks a little wonky here. Maybe her mouth here is a little too wide, but it's whatever. Still, I think overall still pretty good. Got some pretty good shots. Not too much I change. Yeah, and I think this is where the comic, at least art-wise, started to kind of shape up. Here it's a little too empty. I would have probably added some backgrounds, or at least made it darker since it's like nighttime or whatever. Here you have her facing here, and in this place she's facing the other way. Again, just something to think about to be consistent. I like some of the shots. I think they're pretty good. These were dope, and this was like kind of like flashback, and as you can see I have like the black beyond the panel lines to really emphasize on the fact that, okay, you know, this is a flashback in a way, and you have this character kind of thinking blah blah blah, and that's how we make this transition into the actual flashback with him and the main character from back in the past. And I like how I drew water in this case, and some of these shots were like, I think were really pretty strong. Wouldn't change much here. And you know, it goes on. Yeah, these were, I really like these. And you have this drawing of, you know, almost like a character walking away reminiscent, and you see some of the flower stuff. I thought these were pretty strong, pretty artistically, beyond the obvious mistakes that I've been talking about the whole time. But yeah, I thought these were pretty strong. And then it goes on, and you know, the comic is basically the same. You know, me making the same mistakes, having the same drawings, having some challenging angles, you know, sometimes putting too many panels maybe. But overall, so far so good at this point, you know, because even though I'm criticizing the comic, I think it was still okay. I'm just talking about things that would change if I did the comic all over again. You see the character revealing himself this time, you know. I thought it was pretty okay. I like the silhouette shot. I probably need to do more of these. I don't do these as much as I would like to, because maybe I forget during my storyboarding phase. So when you storyboard, you kind of want to give it time. Again, you want to review those storyboards to make sure they work. Here, maybe his lips are a little too big, but it's still fine. I think the drawings overall are pretty okay. And then we have the last shot, a group of villains and things like that. And you have this a little to be continued thing that I have here, similar to how it's done in, you know, other comic anthology kind of stuff going on. But yeah, overall I thought the comic was pretty good. And for those who are familiar with Samurai Top Hat, then you're probably someone who's been following my channel or following me as an artist for a while now, and you're one of the OG, you know, supporters of mine, and I greatly appreciate. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video of just me basically butchering my own work, talking about how much of a trash artist I am, but still pretty okay. And in the next video, I will do maybe a different old comic that I've done and I've learned from, and it'll probably be Candlejack, or I would show some old images of what Apple Black used to look like, say in like 09 or 2010. But this is what Apple Black is right now, like I said. So yeah, I hope you guys, you know, like the video. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and let me know your thoughts. Let me know, you know, what's going on through your mind looking at these videos. If you like these kind of videos where I analyze stuff and go through stuff, and maybe that helps you in creating your own comics and things of that nature. And this is a little popularity poll, which I'll probably do. Not probably, I'll definitely do another popularity poll for volume 2 for those who have been keeping track. But you know, we were at this, you know, now we're at this, and this is much better. This is much better. Ain't it much better? I think it is. So yeah, please don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell so you guys stay notified each time I upload a video. Stay tuned for more videos. I know I haven't been as active, but eventually I'll be done. I just have a lot of like work, other stuff to do that I need to finish, and then we would get like a series of videos, just go boom, 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 boom. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It's Whyt Manga. I'm out.